Ka pai, tēnā tātou. Huge mihi to our mates for inviting me to share a kōrero. Always feels a bit strange not having a look at other people's faces in the room, um, and to see who is looking at me and hearing my kōrero. But I see there's 20 peoples of you, and yeah, thank yous for tuning in and choosing to be here today and to listen a little bit to what I get up to and what I would like to share with you today. My name is Lani Rotzler-Purewa. That's a double barrel name. That's a German and a Maori double barrel name. I need to also remember I'm speaking to an international audience, so not to use too much Māori words in between my sentences. You might know. Yes, who am I? I wrote in my little bio, I'm a geographer, I'm a researcher. I suppose I could call myself a scientist, an educator, but none of those titles bring me as much, none of those identifiers do justice and tell the story of who I am and who I come from. And for us, a natural part of getting to know one another is giving homage to the places, the people and places that made us, that we come from. And I thought I'd be a bit personal and put some baby photos of me in there. I was born in Aotearoa, New Zealand. My mum was probably of the first generation of backpackers in New Zealand, of German backpackers in New Zealand, met my dad. But I was raised in the Black Forest. So Belgium is the mountain. The Schwarzwald is the region, the forest that raised me. We're right on the border of Switzerland, where the Rhine, some of you might know the Rhine, does a big kink, like right in that little corner there where actually the green dot is, not where the red dot is. So that's a place that has shaped me, that captivates my heart. I've just come from over there for a 4-month stint to be with my great-grandmother in her last days. But then also really grounded in Aotearoa. We moved here when I was 10 years old. My mum and dad both knew that it was important I would always know both places of my whakapapa, my genealogy. Although so Te Urewera is the rainforest that our iwi, our tribe, call home. On my father's side, we're from Ruatoki, Ngāi Tūhoe te iwi, ko Mauna Pohatu te mauna, ko Taiarahia te mauna. Ohine Mataroa is our river that flows from the spring to the ocean out in Whakatane. I've had the privilege to live I was actually raised in Germany and then raised in Wellington. So we're a 3-generation urban Māori family. Our grandfather moved down in the 60s during that time of what is known as the Great Urban Drift, when many Māori their rural homes, which had all been systematically, intentionally, economically disadvantaged, especially for Tūhoe, because we didn't comply. We did not comply or side with the Crown during our land wars. So much history and politics around Te Urewera also because of all of that time. But you might have heard of her because she has her own legal personhood under the European law. She is also recognised as an ancestor, which is a pretty cool or groundbreaking, really global movement for the rights of nature. So a lot of places like that we have the privilege of calling home in Aotearoa, lakes and mountains. What else did I want to say about these two places? I think the Germans are exceptional at forest management. I come from a family, although I've never, and this is very like academic, coded of me, and recognizing my privilege. I've not worked in forestry, but I've witnessed a lot of how forestry in New Zealand works because my family own a business and have profited off of that industry, as many people do. But if you're in New Zealand, you know that forestry is a very destructive industry. It's caused a lot of just shit washing down the hills, and rivers blocking up during Cyclone Gabrielle on the east coast. And so the Black Forest, it is an eco sanctuary down the very south of it, but it's a mixed use forest. Why am I talking about these places? Yes, they captivate my heart. It's where I'm from, but they're also places that give so much hope in climate turbulent futures, and so much to learn from their histories of these places. And yeah, so the Black Forest is also hugely suffering under climate change. We can already see the thing that makes the Black Forest iconic is the pine, and it's too dry. It no longer rains enough in summer, and it no longer snows in winter. And I think that for me in my childhood, I grew up with icicles outside of my window. I grew up being pulled on a sled to kindergarten. We would go skiing on the hill behind our little village. And that doesn't happen anymore. I'm 28 last week. So in a very short time, those childhood memories that once were normal for a South German upbringing are no longer. And that's heartbreaking. And then Te Urewera, we have, I'd say our biggest challenge is our pest control, our paihamu, I say our possum. It's the possum from Te Whenua Moemoeā, from the land of the dreaming. So want to mahi to all of you that are over in Te Whenua Moemoeā, is how we refer to Australia, the land of the dreaming. Want to mahi to all of you growers over there, and so yeah, thinking of the possum and as our connector, as somebody who's a lover of like permaculture concepts, with every weed, with every pest, I always encourage people to remember we are the number one pest. It's the human, and not to address the problem with a hateful heart. We do need to lower the possum population. It's just having too much of an impact on our native flora and fauna. But Tūhoe are really shaking the methods of how we do this. New Zealand is one of, or the only place that where 1080, the chemical to kill pests, is legal, and we have huge lobbyists pumping politics to make sure that that's the number one and only considered method. I understand the need for 1080 in case there's any super pro 1080 people in here, but in Te Urewera, we have a lot of families reliant on subsistence-based living. That means they're hunting, they're gathering those deer and those pigs and those paihamu possums for their income, to feed their dogs and to feed their families. And so when we drop 1080 en masse, all of that stops. And that's no good. We can't be doing that. So our tribal officers, I have heard they've just purchased a tannery. So we're thinking local circular economics, and that's really, really, really exciting. What else did I want to say? Yeah. That's enough about me. Okay, Cuzzies I te Māra. Where do I start talking about this kaupapa? I think it actually starts during COVID. I crashed out really good during COVID, had a little mentee bee, and dropped out of uni and started volunteering at a community garden at a place some of you might have heard of. Common Unity is the name. Common Unity. It's still running. It's actually thriving. It's under new leadership. I learned a lot of things there. I had a permaculture mentor, pretty much private mentor. I would get to learn from her on a Monday, and then on a Tuesday I would teach the same stuff to the children at a primary school, and then on a Saturday I would teach the same stuff to an adult education program that we'd run at our school garden. And Common Unity, we had a kitchen, we had a seed bank, we had a sewing room. I actually started volunteering in the cafe, and then I became the cafe manager, and from there I moved into the gardens. Hospo is always something I've done since I was 14 and during uni, so that's how I kind of slipped into there and learned about growing veggies with tamariki, with children and young people and old people, because a lot of retirees came, because all of our volunteers would come and we'd have a shared we'd feed them lunch from soups made from our garden. We had cooks, and it was a beautiful place, but it was also a really hard place. It was also a place that left me with a lot of unresolved anger and trauma. And I think that's why it's so cool to be invited to a kaupapa like this guy. And, permaqueer, just from your name, it's about dismantling and decolonizing permaculture. And I was the only Māori. I was, other than some volunteers, I was the only Māori in our organisation. And I often have been in many organisations, unless they're a Māori organisation. And there were some really harmful things that happened there. Really, really harmful. Very extractive of my cultural knowledge and my advice. Really disrespectful, racial profiling, assuming I was gang affiliated, which through my family I am. Many of us are in the Hutt. And so this was a nainai. This is a nainai in Lower Hutt, in the suburbs of Wellington. And that's not to belittle all of the kind-hearted souls that love up that place, that actually comprise that place of community, but it was about the leadership. And so I think, my laptop is about to die. Hold on, let me just switch the switch. Oh yes, we got electricity. Okay, maybe I pause really quick. Is there any reflections or questions?
We just have Manu saying common unity is wonderful, and that sounds terrible that you had that difficult experience. But other than that, just a joy. It's such a joy. Thank you.
Yeah. Forever grateful for that place and all of the elders that mentored me there, and the Pākehā, the non-Māori mentorships that I have. We refer lovingly to our non-Māori friends as tangata tiriti, those people that call Aotearoa, New Zealand, their home through the document that was created to uphold more than biculturalism and not a fake sense of unity. But I do believe that's what that document has the potential to do for us. Sidetracking. Cuzzies te Māra. Me and Tina were both really frustrated with the ways in which NGOs operate. And we could see the ways in which, actually the narrative of feeding the poor brown children in our community were filling people's pockets. And it gave us the ick. And we could see that other schools didn't have the privilege of growing a garden because it wasn't marketable and often with teenagers. People struggle with teenagers, and so we knocked on my uncle's door. We said, please, can we come hang out every week and grow a Māra with your students? And that's what we started doing. We started hanging out. Land at the back of their school, so they would clean up and plant native species. We did a soil test with them and explained how to build organic matter. Oh, hello.
I think we lost you there quickly, just a moment, when you were saying, and then when you moved to the Māra that you were doing. So if you can just jump back to where that was.
When we moved to the Māra.
Yeah.
We moved to the Māra. Did you hear me say we did a bit of co-design with our students and started planting?
No, it was when you just changed the slides and started talking about it, and then it just dropped out.
Oh, yeah. Can you see the slide with the little fantail?
No.
Oh, you can't see the slides at all?
I can see the slide with... Oh, no, now I can. Sorry, maybe it's my one. Yeah, now I can.
Yeah, you can see the slide with this is a fantail, a tirairaka, a piwaiwaka, is his Māori name, and that's the school emblem, so that's what inspired some of our garden Māra design. We also did soil tests with our students and tied in some science learning outcomes. We pulled rubbish out of the creek, and we removed invasive species like blackberry and replanted natives in their wetlands. And yeah, I mean, they've been doing that for longer than me and Tina showed up. So it's like we trying to find the connection between like cultivation and food and our nahere. So in Te Ao Māori, we have two deities that reign over our food systems, Rongo Mātāne and Haumia Tike Tike. Rongo Mātāne is in our garden, and our sweet potatoes and our potatoes and the foods that we cultivate intentionally, and Haumia Tike Tike is things like watercress. Oh, my little headphones are dying. And so many other little greens that we can nibble on in the forest, and so we were trying to give homage to both of those by teaching our students, hey, the eel in the creek and the forest and the Māra, the food garden, they're all from one ecosystem. They're all from our same planet. So let's look after Papa Tuanuku. Let's look after our Mother Earth. A couple of other places I want to acknowledge is Papa Whakaritorito Trust, who you all had the pleasure of hearing from Jessica Hutchings yesterday or the day before, I believe. She's been a long-time mentor of mine. Started reading her things at uni, and then had the privilege of meeting her through my other work, which was for Parakore, who advocate for a world without waste from a Māori worldview, helping families and communities to reduce their waste through composting, through reusable period products, you name it, they got it. And yeah, Papa Whakaritorito Trust and Jessica, forever gratitude and love to those guys and their support of our dreams to grow food with our young people. We'll drop off seedlings and let me disperse them throughout the community to plant. An honor. Literally got to feed my family down in Lower Hutt. I feel a lot of imposter syndrome talking about that, because I moved away from Wellington. I moved away from that community, and that school always knew me and Tina were there for a temporary moment in time to establish that, because our dream was always that this type of work would enable us to move to our ancestral home, which I'm so excited to be able to share with people. She's currently doing that too. So we've both managed to do that in the last year and a half to serve our community, to which we trace our ancestral genealogy to. And a work that's enabled me to do that was Puranga Kura. Puranga Kura found me in Tina through some lecturers I had. Oh, these guys are doing cool stuff. Yeah, cool. They sent me an email. I thought it was another research project. They just wanted to take some photos and you know, come for an afternoon. They offered me a 2-year contract. So I've been learning from some of the greats of what is qualitative and quantitative community research. And our project has, just ignited even more so the want to move home or close to home, to live in community, to live off the land, and not be a tenant in a city. And so this research project is called Generation Kāinga, focuses on Rangatahi young Māori aspirations for the future of housing. And they've pushed us to think about housing not as 4 walls and a roof, but our home in its most broadest definition. We were asking, we did a survey of hundreds of people. We did one-on-one peer interviews. I think did we reach 200? It was a lot. Asking things like, what do young people actually want? And the results are pretty much young people are really concerned about the cost of living and the cost of housing. Young people are really concerned about our climate futures. And we're all interested in this thing called communal living, papa kaina style living, which is how we used to live, but we all see the various challenges of making that happen. Yeah. What do I want to say about this project? It's been not just about, we're about to publish a paper where we wrote about what we do. No, hold on, let me start again. There's 4 other youth projects that were chosen as case studies. So pretty much I've had the privilege for the past 2 years of hanging out with the most exceptional young Māori and my friends, and learning from them. Shall I rattle them off? Yeah, Mate Huru. They're a youth housing program in Auckland that offer housing for young people for a year and wraparound support. We have Orua and Mātangireia, who are a youth architecture firm who have designed some of the biggest marae in Auckland, or most beautiful places in Auckland. We have my friend Rosa, who is a worker, stations. We have 4th Gen, who are from the far north and are experts in all things restoration, taiao, environmental restoration. And we have Rahiri from the East Coast, who's also a community organizer in her community for taiao, for the arts, for the environment, and for the arts. So this is a Ministry of Business funded project. It's a 4-year project. It's been huge, and despite that, they've really pakeke. What is pakeke? Our mentors, our elders. They're not elders. They're like young elders. Have written this into their research proposal years ago. To nurture the next generation of change makers, of researchers, of question askers, and yeah, good mentorship is something I've always searched for and yearned for, and often received in the most gracious way, like Jessica and my cousin Erin Matariki asked me to travel to Navdanya. Here's my next story I want to harp on about. Yeah, so many positive role models, many beautiful mentors that I've had as a young person trying to do community organizing, just off of a deep yearning to do so, but also some dumb mentors that took advantage of me. And so I think what I was thinking about, trying to tie this back to our theme of parasitic fungi, or even just the natural world in general, that succession planning, who's next, what's next, and I have always thought about, I'm constantly trying to bring my little cousins and my young people along with me to teach them. I'm only one. My family harping on about this stuff. So grateful to all of my mentors, which makes me want to talk about this mentor, which I'm sure you've all know, the name Dr. Vandana Shiva. That's me sitting at her feet. Like, that actually happened. That was real life. We wrote a thing that we called the Māori Women's Declaration for Ngāi Tūhoe. I didn't write it. Vandana Shiva, Jessica Hutchings, and Erin Matariki wrote it. I just got to have a glimpse of the draft, and I got to travel to present and talk about it. Ngāi Tūhoe is our first. She's our soil deity. She's the first human woman formed. She is our ultimate grandmother. So it's hearty calling out colonization and patriarchy, which I'm not going to go into tonight because I'm sure you are all on that level. But it is available on the Papa Whakaritorito website. I don't know if anybody is interested in anything that I'm talking about. Please, you can find me on socials and I can send you links. Even this trip was insane. That's the family from Papatuanuku Kōkiri Marae in Auckland. They do incredible work feeding their community. Whae Donna Kerridge, who is a superstar healer and seed saver. We also had Libby Hakaraya, who, and my cousin Rani Moaho Iti. You guys might know our famous koro from Ruatoki from Tūhoe Tame Iti. That's his grandson in the black t-shirt. They came and did the filming for us for this trip. So there is actually a film if anybody is interested in what we got up to over there. What is our time? Oh yeah, harping on. Another kaupapa that is dear to my heart, again, founded by Jessica Hutchings, is the Hua Parakore verification system. You may have heard, I'm sure you heard about it in her kōrero. But it takes what I love about permaculture and about biodynamics and organics, which is the use of chemical fertilizers and pesticides, and it leaves away all of the culturally unsafe perspectives that I have heard a lot in those spaces that haven't done the work to decolonize themselves and strip away prejudice. So Hua Parakore is the place that I go to, that I turn to, and that I invite people into as a system of learning to do that. Actually, some of you who haven't been on that journey in terms of your growing might find this challenging. I think even the theme of this weekend or of this week is permaculture political. I've had people ask me that. Why does agriculture or permaculture need to be political? If you're asking that, then you've got a long way to go. And a lot of people, don't. But starting on your Hua Parakore journey could be the beginning of coming to those enlightenments. So Hua Parakore is about reigniting the ways of our ancestors and coming to understand the land again as a complex and interconnected system where corporate profit and monopoly-driven agriculture are not privileged over spiritual balance and ecological balance. And that is a very simple worldview that many Indigenous cultures inherently carry within them. It would be insanity to explain to them the ways in which we're growing our food and poisoning our soils and ourselves. And so when I think about concepts like permaculture, which was originated in Australia in the 70s by a non-native man, and I think about biodynamics, which comes from Rudolf Steiner, I can see the way in which, clearly, Indigenous worldviews and concepts are integrated, but not accredited, not credited. And I say that as a Rudolf Steiner student. I've never gone to a mainstream school. I've always gone to those schools, and I suppose it is why I have a deep love for the land and growing food, because I was exposed to biodynamic farms a lot. But that gives me also valid a position to criticize, because I was a little brown person in those very, very white spaces. I think I've almost come to all of the brain farts that I wanted to share with you. Young people in leadership looking for mentors. Important that you find high trust in those mentorships. Dream big. That's where all the stuff started. Never in my wildest dreams would I actually have thought I would get to go to India and meet Vandana Shiva. But when I was 17, I made her cup of tea at a conference because I was waitressing at a conference, and I bought one of her scarves made out of organic cotton and printed in at their farm at Navdanya, and I've slept with that for 10 years on my nightstand. So I actually don't believe it's a coincidence I went there. Dreams do come true. We just need to put ourselves in the right direction. And that's a place of privilege. I'd say that from a place of growing up with relative privilege, to be able to have the safety to dream. One cool thought I did want to share along the thoughts of parasitic fungi. We have this cool fella called a āwhetō in Aotearoa, New Zealand. It's a mushroom that inhibits a caterpillar, and what does it do? I suppose it goes. I don't know too much about the life cycle of this caterpillar, but you know, with parasitic mushrooms, they go in and take over, and that's how they multiply themselves. But really, we have bacteria, fungi, and viruses, as a population control, and we refer to them as mate uruta, the unseen deaths, which post-COVID has been a lot of conversations with our elders about those unseen deaths, and the unseen, the microscopic, it actually has power over us. We are, yeah, completely at the mercy of beings that we won't see with our eyes. And to me, that is about the recognition of whakapapa connections, of genealogical connections to the natural world, because in our creation stories, the human is the last created. Real shift from that ego, man, Adam, Eve thing, to us being the babies. We are dum-dums. We know nothing. And look at the way we're treating our ancestors, the home that feeds us. So yeah, through the recognition of our genealogical connections to this natural world, we remember we are Taina, we are the youngest, and all deities and all living things within the living world came before us. And that's when we remember that, that's when we can begin to reestablish balance, that ecological and spiritual balance. Oh, I think I've come to the end of my little page. I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Mihi nunui kia koe, ko koe runga. Oh, joy. It's just such, like, just the giggles, the smiles, the expansiveness, the grief, the difficulty, the pain. You're just a delight to listen to in your storytelling, and to interact with these projects and see them play out through you and in your storytelling is a delight. And it's yeah, what a joy to listen to experience that, and for all of the all of those threads that you have found, in the pursuit of listening to your tupuna, of listening to Papa Tuanuku, and yeah, playing that role that you're called to play. So yeah, mihi tuatahi kia koe. Thank you for the time. And also open up to the crowd as well. If you've got any questions, chuck them in the Q&A. Oh, amazing! Straight into it from some people. Second, what Guy said, what a joy to listen to. Absolutely, Jacob. Thank you. And then from Amy, love hearing your brain farts and all about your whakapapa and awesome mahulani. Amazing to hear you speak for the first time here and see you in the photo with Vandana and Jessica. A photo which I've seen before through following Jessica's work. So beautiful. Thank you.
Tēnā koe, Amy. That's lovely. Thank you. Yeah, huge honor. Huge honor. Every word I get to speak in person, that it is a huge honor. Yeah, grateful to connect with yous. In this kaupapa, keen to jam anytime, throw some kaupapa our ways. Tēnā koe. Oh, what's your name? Toad. Nice to meet you.
Hi, kia ora. Yeah,
You're the other half, eh?
yeah. Ngā mihi nui. Thank you so much for the grace in which you do this work. And like how you weave all these threads together towards like collective care and care for your own community, but care for like those who exist, who some would consider some lines not your community as well, like the way that you weave everything with such grace. Thank you for that.
Yeah, global community, eh? Need more people thinking like that.
Yeah.
Good.
So cues, we've been, so many threads have come through, so many awesome kōrero and whakaaro from different speakers today and from day one as well. And, we've spoken a lot about political formation and how to get organized and what organizing looks like, what we need to pull away from that, and just a really robust critique of how these movements operate, what our obligation is to the global south, the global majority, how we orient ourselves, and yeah, how we how we choose to move forward. And a theme that's come up quite a lot is that of reciprocity. And what does reciprocity need to look like in these spaces moving forward? And I get chills even thinking about what those ideas come from both yourself and the Rangatahi kaupapa that you're a part of, those young people. But yeah, a question based off of what does reciprocity need to look like in the food system moving forward?
Oh yeah, great question. In the food system, it's just I feel like I've been saying this on repeat since I was like 20, because we just need to move away from, and same with housing, same with the housing project actually, is we need to get away from housing existing solely under capitalism as a commodity that we buy and sell. We can provide food and housing to each other as a gift that we give to each other. You know, it is a little bit, I get critiqued for being, you know, manic pixie dream girl and like dreaming up this wild post-capitalist future, but it's not going to happen unless we create it. So, and that system's actually not working. It's actually crumbling. So it's, yeah, for food to exist as a gift that we give to each other. I'm not shy of work, but I would love to retire from capitalism and just work for my community. I would love to see land provided for people to build their homes as needed. I do see a future where all of that comes to fruition. I hope for all of rangatahi Māori and for the global majority. But it feels, really hard and like a distant dream when we actually smack ourselves in the face with the realities of global politics right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's that sovereignty stuff, you know. I think as Indigenous people, we I think we're about to face a really hard time again of needing to defend the right to access our lands and to protect our lands. Sorry, what's the positive spin I'm trying to make?
I don't think you need to make a positive spin. I think the weight of it's real and really fair. Like it's just that reality.
Yeah.
Maybe weaving into a thread from a previous talk we've had, because we were talking a little bit about like queer kinship and also the role of like pests and ferals, and then becoming a part of an ecosystem, but having that responsibility towards tending those things, both people and like possums or things like that, like in right relationship. So I guess the question I was kind of wanting to weave is how would you like to see, whether it's pests or like the languaging here is not great because it's the end of a very long day. Apologies.
Yeah, you must be buzzing and exhausted.
It's been a joyful marathon. Yeah, it's been a marathon, but it's been a joyful one. How would you like to see the way in which people might act like pests in social landscapes or pests in the land, move from that towards like truly tangata tiriti, like
a little like metaphor moment.
Yeah.
But specifically around people, not the pests.
Either direction. Yeah, like we've been talking about the cultural responsibility of like people who act like pests to have cultural responsibility for the pests that they bring to the country, to like bring that into right relationship. So this kind of, those queer kinships, how can they be of service to tangata whenua?
I don't know if I'm answering this in like a queer context, but it's like you know, how can non-Māori integrate better into meeting us? Here is actually them knowing where they come from. It's actually you knowing yourself and where are you meeting me. As when you meet a person with cultural amnesia, things get really tricky. And of course, that's hard. It's asking about what is your race. We're not trying to do what you did to us, but asking what was the environment in which your ancestors were raised for thousands and thousands of years that had an imprint on who you are. And go to those places because you'll feel it. I promise you. I never grew up in Te Rewera. I was never raised anywhere near there. We had family in the northern Te Rewera, but that's pretty much it's like town. It's close to Whakatane, Ruatoki. We never went to the bush as Wellington Māoris going up home. But the first time stepping into those hills and walking those hills, it was like my feet had been there for eons and eons because they had just the same feet. And so, yeah, I think that's what I struggle with most is because then you're coming with a thirst and a hunger that we can give you some of our culture. We're very generous in sharing. Hey, but what do you bring and who are the people that you bring? That's kind of what I'm thinking about. But I don't quite understand the part of your question that was about queer relationships in that context, or maybe I misunderstood something.
Oh, no, thank you. We've just been talking about like queer kinship of like not just amongst LGBT plus people, but the edge spaces. So where like the edge of one thing touches in the other instead of like moving towards purity or the fear of contamination. How do we allow like third, fourth, fifth ways of like collaborative spaces to emerge instead of just this or that? Like how do you, yeah.
Yeah. Because it is all the same struggle, as someone who has a great grandfather who was in the SS, white supremacy and fascism is something I'm really obsessed about and always have been. And when we think about the destruction of our land, the erasure of Indigenous cultures, and the erasure of queer realities in Indigenous cultures and everywhere, it all comes and harm to our disabled communities. It all comes back to that fascist root. Sorry, what was the actual thought that I had to conclude that rambling? Just being us, just being ourselves. I always thought about my queerness as not having much to do with my work. But I'm so grateful to be invited here in the food space, but I was reflecting on it after being asked to speak here, and like the moments where I would talk about my relationship, having a girlfriend with some of our young people in the garden as like a byproduct of doing work together, who I could tell was going to be young queer students of mine, like that made a difference in their lives, and that did normalize that. And all of that is deconstructing those silos, that we, and the made up, like, what was that contamination stuff? I'm this, you're that. We more the same than we're different. I think maybe because I look like a straight girl, also a lot of the boys always was quite pleasant to disrupt their perception of what a lesbian looked like. Yeah. Yeah. And and all of that feeds into the decol stuff, that we need to do.
Yeah, it's been interesting, part of our approach at Permaqueer has been how do we use different other, how do we use the play around with what's not normal and what is kind of strange as a inquiry of how we move forward, and as a decoupling with you, right, of how, actually we're not going to do that, we're not going to do that, we're not going to do that. We're just going to figure out something actually that might be fit for what is here right now without any preconceived notion. And I think that's something that, deep listening that I've had the privilege to do both back in Aotearoa and here as well, and being in spaces that foster that deep listening, that foster that reciprocity, manaakitanga and mana, that care and and the respect to be able to sit in a space as it is and allow for people and more than people, non-human participants of our life to inform that as well, and not just continue to project these power structures onto it, which I think is something that Rangatahi are really leading the way in. They don't care anymore. But like, we're not doing that, not that they don't care, they care a lot, but they don't care about these sort of narratives that are built up.
I am just a millennial Gen Z cusp, but I'm obsessed with the younger Gen Zs. I'm obsessed with Gen Alphas. They teach me so much. They do this like look of unimpressed face, and they have like no tolerance for white man bullshit. Oh, so good. Need more of that.
That's brilliant. That is brilliant. Yeah. We had a question.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. I think in those generations, those things are those boundaries, they are dissolving.
Mm.
And in Aotearoa, I would say part of that is, kura kaupapa and young Māori being raised in Māori philosophies.
And I think, being over here now in Te Whenua Moemoeā in South Australia, when they're proposing this, new pathway to treaty in Victoria, and what, looking back at how much both the fight for our sovereignty become in Aotearoa, how hard that fight was, how relentless that fight was, and still is. And also the importance of the role of tangata tiriti in that, of who was in partnership with that. And I think, to apply it to permaculture as political in this Australian context, and we'll be talking about it more tomorrow when we bring that treaty person in, but there's an entirely new imagining of what being a treaty partner is here. There's a new opportunity to broker that relationship and understand what that looks like, and to cast that, for the people who are from Te Whenua, Australia, listening to the joy that comes out of these, kura kaupapa, which is full, language immersion for the whole schooling. And if you imagine, the Aboriginal communities being able to sit in their strength, what happens after that empowerment is reinforced intergenerationally, and that's where healing comes from. That's the horizon of the horizon. And so, yeah, what would you say, maybe in closing, Lani, given the time, around, as we're stepping into this time in history again, where an opportunity to broker treaty is and so-called Australia. Do you have any thoughts on how people might what was it Moana Jackson says, as if this was happening, how should people respond, how should people be, what are your thoughts?
Unity. Hey, it's so hard. It's so hard to be one when we're constantly infighting. That's what comes to mind, is it's hard one. Leadership. Hey, find your leadership, or raise them. Raise your leaders. Look to your children as your ultimate boss leaders, because some of these uncles. No, but yeah, we're seeing it currently. It's hot in the news. The organisation that pulled together the biggest march ever in Aotearoa was 100,000 people, and Te Pāti Māori, all of those, and the internal, and then it happens everywhere, I think, and it's very common in every tribe. And so when we're negotiating with the Crown, it's even more paramount that we are united. I don't got any hot tips. I think it's really hard. That's all I say. But We're 10 years post-settlement, and I always say it's up to us to make our own mistakes. We're allowed to make our own mistakes. We're in our infancy of rebuilding ourselves after genocide. Like it was actually that. 1860s. No, we're still trying to figure it out. But a little piece of advice I do have about all of that infighting stuff is actually, I think it's a symbol of being alive. Well, and I always try to say to my family, aren't we lucky to be knowing each other, to be fighting over our land with each other? There's plenty of tribes that no longer exist, that didn't make it. Yeah, and communities that did get absolutely decimated and don't have millions and millions in the bank. Yeah, that's my final thoughts. But yay, community living. We all yearn for it deeply. That's the research that we've been doing now. We all do want to live with each other, but we all find it really hard because we've been told we're individuals or some shit. I'm gonna leave it at that.
Oh, all right, everyone, flood the Q&As with your love for Lani. Mihi nui kia koe I hoa, ai, ka tino pai tēnei, kōrero. Thank you so much. It's been so beautiful. And I'm so glad that this is the first of many collabs. And if anyone, will share the deets of Lani as well and jump on and do some collabs there. And
Hit me on the gram, Lani Purewa. She'll put it in the message. You can find me there. I wanted to say a huge mahi to you too, Permaculture. Do you know I actually heard about you years ago? Tina and I had talked about you years ago, and we're like, oh, these guys, oh, cool. The fact that it exists, the name, so good.
Yeah,
because it is, agriculture and organics, it can be a very sterile place despite all the compost and dirt. Yeah. So yeah, I appreciate the work that you do massively, and really, really grateful for all of you that are in this room and shared some virtual breaths today. Yeah, Mauri ora.
Thank you so much.